What's up everybody, Sam here, and you're watching episode 52 of Why is my wrist popping like that? Episode 52 of Life in Germany. And today I am talking about something extremely important. Like, I would say the information that I'm going to give you today is just crucial for your existence in Germany. You need to know these things, so listen up. Because today I am going to give you 4 essential pieces of information for eating out in Germany. Because as big as the food culture is here, you just cannot survive without knowing these things. But that's okay, because I'm about to clear the air a little bit regarding special things about eating out in Germany, especially in comparison to eating out in the States. That's, since I'm an American, that's where I'm coming from. That's what I'm going to be comparing it to. Just keep that in mind. So I'm going to jump right in without any dilly-dallying, because if you're watching this, it probably means you want to go eat out. If you want my recommendation, try to get some Schwäbisch Kartoffelsalat, or maybe some Maltaschen. Maltaschen has a really funny story behind it, actually. All right, I'll get to the tips in a second. I have to tell you about Maltaschen. So if you don't know, it's kind of like ravioli, or what's it called? I can't even remember what we call them in English. But yeah, it's this meat wrapped in a big noodle. It's usually much larger than our typical ravioli in the States, and you can either serve them whole or cut up. But the point of this is the story behind it. Apparently not too terribly long ago, Catholics were not allowed to eat meat on Sundays. So they were so genius that they decided to just wrap the meat up in pasta, and that way when you're eating it, God can't see, because it's hidden by the pasta. This is my wet face. Although, to be honest, I don't really care how it originated, it's just really good food. Okay, so much for not dilly-dallying. Here are 4 important tips for eating out in Germany. Number 1 is tipping, and tipping is something that I believe is shrouded in mystery in just about every country. So just I got this. For all you German viewers, if you're not aware, waiters and waitresses in the States aren't even paid minimum wage usually. They're paid just a couple bucks an hour and then expected to make their living on tips. Now, because of this, the price of the food in the menu can typically run cheaper than it does in Germany, but you are to a certain extent expected to throw an extra 15 or 20% on to the top of your bill as a tip for your server. Now, for the clueless Americans watching, that's not the way it works in Germany. In Germany, servers are paid at least minimum wage, which I believe now is like 12 euros. They just passed a new minimum wage law. Don't hold me to that though, I don't remember the exact amount. In other words, they aren't depending on tips to survive like most servers are in the States. You are still expected to tip here in Germany, although not nearly as much. Typically, just throwing a couple euros on top does the job. Now, it does of course depend on the total amount you spend on the food. I believe the typical range here is you tip 5 to 10% versus the 15 to 20 in the States. But something I should also mention is that in Germany you typically will pay with cash when you go out to eat, because everybody accepts cash, obviously, and while it's not uncommon for restaurants to accept cards, there are still many that don't. So carry cash, that's an extra bonus tip for you. That being said though, one of the purposes of the tip is to make it easier for your server to give you your change, which I'll talk about in a second. But first, we gotta move on to the second tip. And that is that you will have to ask for the bill. Not like in the States, where when the waitress or waiter thinks you're done eating, they just bring you it. No, in Germany, you have to let them know when you're ready to pay. Unless you've been there way too long and haven't ordered any more drinks or appetizers or anything, they'll pretty much just let you sit there for as long as you want. So when you are ready to pay, there are a couple easy ways to ask to do that. You can say, Die Rechnung bitte, which just means the bill, please. Or you can say, Wir möchten zahlen, which means we want to pay. Or if you're feeling really nice and friendly, you can say, Könnten wir bitte zahlen, bitte. So then the server comes with her little black book with the bill in it. She might first say, Zusammen, which means, y'all folks are together, right? Or do you want to pay separately? Now here's when the tipping comes into action. The server will just tell you how much you owe them. And then you hand them the money and can tell them one of 2 things. Let's say the bill was 26 euros and 32 cents. And let's say you handed the server a 50 euro bill. Well, you can either state an amount of money that they will then take. And that's including the tip. So what did we say? 26.32? Your bill is 26.32 and you say 28 euros, or 29 euros, or 30 euros, or more, depending on how generous you feel as far as tipping. So then they take your money, they keep however much you said, and they give you the rest back. And obviously when you're breaking a 50 euro bill, it's way easier to give change when you pay 30 euros than it is when you pay 26.32. The other thing you can say is stimmt, and if you gave them a 50 euro bill, For a meal that was $26.32, you probably don't want to say that. Unless the service there was just out of this world incredible, or your waitress was really cute. But stimped means keep it all. So let's do a more reasonable example here. If your bill is $26.32 and you hand them a 20 euro bill and a 10 euro bill and you say stimped, yeah, they're gonna keep it all and you just gave them a tip of 3 euros and 68 cents. So there you have it, that's how you tip. And as far as I know, when Germans tip is they will gladly tip generously if the service was good, but they will also not hesitate not to tip at all if it was bad. Now this next one's gonna be a shocker for Americans watching this. Are you ready? You will have to pay for your water. In the US, you walk into a nice restaurant, you just sit down and you say, hey, yo, waitress, give me a nice tall glass of fresh spring water. And she'll get you that nice tall glass of refreshing spring water right from the tap. And she'll bring it to your table and you can enjoy as many glasses of that as you want for absolutely free. The thing is though, tap water is kind of frowned upon here in Germany. I don't know if they just think it's unsanitary. I personally don't give a single flying derp, but they love their bottled water. It's kind of funny, one of the larger brands of water, that sounds so ridiculous, brands of water. I can't remember what the title of it is, but it has to do with the Black Forest. I think it's just called Black Forest water. And literally all it is tap water from the Black Forest. So I can't even. You know, when people think of Germany, the first beverage that comes to mind is obviously beer, which makes sense because as a country, they consume the most beer in the world, second only to the Czech Republic. But would you believe me if I told you that basically their national beverage is sparkling mineral water? In fact, there's only one region in Germany where they drink more beer than this bottled water that they love so much. And when you go to a restaurant, you will pay for it dearly. Now, with all the lovely beer and wine in Germany, I can't begin to imagine why you would go out to eat and drink water, especially considering beer is actually cheaper in the restaurants. It is, I tell you what, if you order water in a German restaurant, chances are you'll get like a 2 or 3/10 of a liter little tiny glass bottle of gourmet water, and it'll cost you 3 euros, whereas a half a liter beer is 3.50. I'm so done. Oh, and because, like I said, they love their sparkling water so much, if you're like me, and you're just not that big a fan of it, don't kill me, German viewers. You're gonna have to specify that you want non-carbonated water. Want my recommendation? Just go with the beer, it's got water in it. And last but not least, plan to stay for a while, especially if you're with a group of friends and it's the evening and it's a weekend or a vacation and no one has anywhere to go. Germans and Europeans in general often get the impression that us Americans are extremely hurried. I think it's just a cultural difference because I never felt hurried acting this way. But when we go out to eat in the States, we sit down, we order our food obviously, but then we get impatient if it takes longer than we're used to. And then when we get our food, we eat it and pretty much maybe 10 minutes after we're all done, we leave. We don't usually hang around. This is absolutely not the case in Germany. Now, obviously people have things to do sometimes and they'll sit down, they'll eat and they'll leave. But I think more often than not, you can expect to stick around for a while. Like we went out to eat with our neighbors once not too long ago. I think we sat in there for 4.5 or 5 hours, but it didn't feel that long. I mean, we were just chatting and enjoying drinks and hanging out the whole time. Restaurants in general may take a little bit longer to serve you than in the States, but I guess Germans just don't have a mindset of moving on to the next thing instantly like we do in the States. And while I never felt hurried to leave restaurants quickly, per se, I think through Germans' eyes, we definitely seem that way. All right, well, that's all for my hopefully helpful tips. Ironically, for a number of reasons, I now have to quickly wrap this up because Mom just said it was time for supper, and I am hungry. Don't get in the way of a ravenous teenager, I tell you what. All right, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you were edumacated, and I'll see you next week. Sam out.